anybody that ever found yourself surrounded in trouble and you felt as though you weren't going to survive? I don't know how I will make it out of what I'm in, but I heard that they cried all day long. They were worrying and moping about, but late in the midnight hour, David said, enough is enough. Grab your neighbor and say, enough is enough. You've been crying for long enough. You've been worrying for long enough. I heard David said he mounted the pulpit at a church in the cave, and he said, beloved, I want to let you know, I know you're worried about what you're looking at, but I've come to let you know that the Lord is my life and my salvation. For there's some folks that tried to play the superhero in your life. I know you have your cape on. I know you have an S on your chest, but God is the greatest power. Look at your neighbor and say, God is the greatest power. He said, the Lord is my light and he is my salvation. Do I got anybody under the sound of my voice that ever found yourself in a dark place and you were all by yourself, but the Lord came in and lit up your life? Touch your neighbor and say, the reason why I'm glowing is because God is in my life. For without God, I'd be like a ship without a sail. The word said that the people got so hurt, they got weak in their spirit. And I don't know who I'm talking to, but somebody had to drag yourself to church this morning, not because it's early, not because it's raining, but when I think about what I'm going through, I'd rather stay in the bed with Rocky Roll and rollers in my head. But David said, the Lord is the strength of my life, of whom David went from preaching to testifying. Can we have a little testimony service, mother? He said, first giving honor to God, who's the head of my life, to the pastor of this great church, officers, members, and friends. I want to let you know that I've got experience with God. This ain't the first time I was in a cave like this, but I remember when Saul, he realized I was sent to replace him. So I found myself in the cave of Adullam. I almost killed him, but I heard the word say, touch not my anointed. I ain't got no help, and do my prophet no harm. He said, I want to let you know, when you've been with God, how I've been with God. Some of you only know God based on a Sunday morning, based on when you're dressed up. But do I got anybody that knows God when you was drunk as a skunk, high as a kite, leaving one place on your way to another, but God stepped in and told you to leave before the shootout broke out? God told you to stay home because there was going to be David said, I know what it looks like outside of the window. Because while we're in here, everybody looks lovely. But look at your neighbor and say, if you only knew what was outside my window, if you only knew the problems I left back at home. Somebody got a bill that needs to be paid, and you don't have the money to pay it. Somebody got a prescription that needs to be filled, but you don't have the insurance to cover it. Y'all not in here. Somebody need a treatment, but your doctor won't prescribe it. But David said, when the wicked, even my enemies and my foes came upon me to eat of my flesh, look at your neighbor and say, there's some things that's trying to eat away at me, but I thank God that I've been anointed to cause my enemy to fall on his face, for my enemies stumble and they fell. And you ought to be encouraged to know that the devil is waiting for you to fall. But I dare somebody to look down on the floor and say, enemy, before I fall, you gonna fall. He said, though a host should encamp against me, my heart will not fear. And some of you, the reason why the enemy is victorious in your life is because you've accepted the spirit that the enemy has given you. And that is the spirit of fear. But the word said that God has not given me the spirit of fear. And you need to learn how to bind stuff up and send it back to the pit of hell from which it. Do I got anybody that would bind up cancer? Because God didn't give me cancer. He said, the war should rise up against me. In this will I be confident. 3 different waves of attack, but nevertheless, I didn't break a sweat. And the reason why I didn't break a sweat is because this is not the first time the enemy tried to attack me. And the only thing I'm trying to get you to do is remember what God did on yesterday. And if Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and forevermore, the same way he brought you out before, I dare you to look towards heaven and say, Lord, let's do it again. The same way he paid the bill before. They said, because you know sometimes devotion can be interactive. They said, well, Reverend, why are you so calm in the midst of all of this? He said, well, in the time of trouble, he shall hide me. Touch your neighbor and say, I got trouble all around me, but God got me in my hideout. So one of the deacons got up and said, well, Rev, how do you keep cool in the midst of all this? He said, well, I'm going to be honest with you. I would have fainted lest I believe to see the goodness of the Lord in the land. I'm going. Touch your neighbor, say, well, what do we do now? Come on, say, what do we do now? Come on, look at somebody and say, what do we do now? David said, I'm going to tell you what you do. He said, wait on the Lord. I'm in the book. He said, wait on the Lord and be of good courage, and he will strengthen that. But it got so good that Isaiah came back and said, I know about that waiting, because they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. Touch your neighbor and say, I'm getting ready to mount up on wings as an eagle. We've got to make sure that you don't allow your situation to make you insecure or make you forget who you are. Touch your neighbor and say, I know who I am, and I'm not what I'm in. Some folks try to define you based on what you're in or what you're struggling with. But you ought to tell yourself, I'm better than that. Oh, God. I may be in a broke situation, but I'm not broke. My body may be acting funny, but God knows I'm not sick. I know it may be raining outside, but I know I'm not depressed. I'm confident to know I'm greater than what's trying to fight against. He said, in this will I be confident. And we must have the confidence to know 3 things. God would never bring us to something that he can't bring us through. Somebody should have got that in their spirit. He'll never put more on you than you can bear. And actually what you're in is designed to make you stronger. That's why it's fighting you the way it is. You're praying more now than you ever done before. And the reason why you're in it is because God is trying to birth the prayer warrior inside of you. Oh, God. He knew if he allowed some trouble to come to your life, he would hear from you more. Y'all not saying nothing, but I know I'm talking right. The second thing we must realize is God won't leave us like this. You can't be a child of God and hurt like this all of your life. Pass that down your row. Say, you can't be a friend to God and struggle the way you're struggling. God is going to bring a shift to your struggle. He's going to pour prosperity into your poverty. If you could just hold on. And this is going to take the whole row to touch and agree. But the third thing we must realize is that there is victory coming on the other side of this. The more things that's fighting against you, the greater the thing God is getting ready to bring you into. For greater is